Now, here's the crazy part. The thing that you sell to them doesn't have to be your thing. If you love a program that is not yours, but that you highly endorse, that's good enough. That's called affiliate marketing. So you could sell someone else's thing. It could be coaching. It could be consulting. It could be physical products.
Welcome back to the Teach Traffic podcast with myself, Ilana Wexler. This is a show where we reveal the best tips, tricks, and tactics to increasing your website traffic and then converting that traffic into leads and sales. We also discuss what's working right now in the ever-changing world of web marketing so you can apply it to your business. Welcome back to another episode of Teach Traffic. I'm your host, Ilana Wexler, and today I've got a really exciting episode for you. Today I had the pleasure of interviewing a guy called Anik Singhal, who has been in the online marketing space for, he said, over 17 years, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. He's done so many different things online. He shares his incredible journey, which he says is kind of like a Hollywood script where he built up a big business, he lost it all, and then he built it all back up again. So there's definitely takeaways to learn from his journey. But importantly, we talk about the number one skill that you need in online business, and importantly, how he is building his current business, which is learn.com, as well as a bunch of other businesses as well. A truly fascinating and interesting person to listen to. I had the pleasure of speaking to him and the honor to share it with you as my audience. So definitely check out this episode. We're going to make some show notes available for you at teachtraffic.com. So definitely check out the show notes so that you don't have to worry about writing notes. You can simply download them from our website for free. And if you want to learn how to run paid traffic profitably, then definitely check out our online community at teachtraffic.com. And I'd love to personally help you grow your campaigns and therefore grow your business online. Most people don't know I do offer free audit of ad accounts in my membership, where you can get my advice personally as to what is doing well in your campaign and what's not. So you can definitely check it out there. All right, let's not waste any more further time. Let's get stuck in today's episode. Thank you so much for coming on today's episode.
Yeah, no problem. And thank you for having me. It's an honor. And I'll give you a little trick to remember my name pronunciation, because I know it gets a little tricky. Sonic the Hedgehog. So I just say chop off sa, and it's Anik. Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, nice. Okay, I'll have to remember that. Sorry if I butchered your name.
No, it's all good.
Maybe it's a part of my accent. So yeah, look, thank you so much for agreeing to come on my show. I know time is a very valuable resource for people, but I've been watching your journey for quite a long time online, probably unbeknownst to you, and you've done so many things online, and I thought it would be wonderful to hear a little bit more about you and your journey. I'm always fascinated in people's journey, and because you've got a really, really interesting journey, which is revealed on your website, but I thought maybe you could sort of share a little bit about your journey, and then we can talk about how you've built Learn, LURN.com into what it is today, and specifically your traffic journey, which we'll sort of get into the weeds a little bit later. But yeah, starting out, do you want to maybe tell us how you got here today? And I'm sure it hasn't been a smooth path, so yeah, I thought maybe it might be interesting to share.
Yeah, I'd love to. I always say, it depends on how much time we have, because I can give you the full drama-filled Hollywood story, and that's what it is. My journey truly is. It could be a movie. And to give you a synopsis, I mean, my journey has taken me down a track of starting with nothing, struggling, hustling. There's that montage scene where I'm just working really hard, 18 months. I don't know how I survived it. I should have quit many times, but somehow I did. Then there's angelic interference and intervention, moments where I truly believe God stepped in and helped me. There's moments where I found myself in a dark corner of a hotel, raining, pouring outside, really bad motel, like a rundown motel, drinking whiskey until I disappeared for a week, borderline alcoholism, lost it all, fell $1.7 million in debt when I was 26 years old. Ended up even having my parents' entire home put at risk. My dad had to take a refinance, to getting back to the top, and just, to today, living in my dream home, married to married to the dream woman, driving my dream cars, running a nonprofit, building multiple businesses, building schools for children and adopting villages in East Africa. It's got the whole thing. It's got like everything in it. And I share the synopsis part of it early because that's what it's about. Being an entrepreneur, I get this all the time. I see it from my friends, right? Because they come over, they see the house, they see the cars, and innately, every time something big happens in my life, I'm either interviewed on some big TV show, I bought a nice car, or I bought a house, and it leads to an influx of people in my personal life that'll come and say, Anik, show me what you do. Tell me, I want to learn what you do. And I would just chuckle because it's something I can really call out. And one of my closest friends, he's one of my 3 best friends. I've known him since I was a kid. We were on this path together for years where every 3 to 4 months he would come to me and he would say, man, I really want to learn how to make more money. I want to know what you do. I'm ready. Help me, support me. And it got to the point where it was like the boy that cried wolf. And so I would just say, okay, sure. What that usually meant was, I want you to do all of it for me and I want the paychecks. And so I'm going to sit here and let you build my business for me. And I have a hard rule about that with my friends or anybody. So I'd give him some tasks, I'd give him some things to do, and he'd disappear. Week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, nothing back. These are the types of tasks that I would do in a day. And finally, eventually, oh, well, this happened, that happened. I was hoping I could just come over. Maybe you could show me this. And I'd say, no, that's not how this is going to work. You have the resources, go get it done, at least do first version. Kept happening. Years, it would fall away, then fizzle out until 3-4 months later, again, he'd be back. We had this moment where we had a heart-to-heart one time. He was having a baby and he came to me again. I'm having a kid. I need more money. I said, okay, man, let's have a conversation. So this is what it's about. This is life. You fall away all the time. And he'd say, well, weekends come up. My wife has this for me to do. Happy hours. This comes up. I got social engagements. I can't say no to those things. And so I sat him down and I said, here's the deal. You're going to have to. Being an entrepreneur, it's not what you think. We talk about financial freedom. We do. And sure enough, I have a ton of financial freedom, but I have a lot of sacrifice and I have a lot of choices I've made in my life. Are you ready to make them? So we went through. I said, no more Saturday nights and weekend nights. Your wife is going to have to go to those parties alone. You have to get her buy-in. You come home every day at 6 p.m. You can play with your kid till 8. When that kid goes to bed, you go to work. And he came to me, a few days later, and he literally looked me in the face and he said, I talked to my wife about it and I listened to what you said. And you know what, man, this isn't for me. I don't want to do this. I love my happy hours. I love my this. And I looked at him and I said, there's nothing wrong with that. That's great. But my story is really a story that exemplifies sacrifice. It exemplifies choices, because that's what we have. We innately as humans, we have choices, and our life is a series of choice selections and, making certain choices. Then there's no right or wrong. But when I was in college, that's where my story started. I started in college to be a doctor, and I always have this joke. I'm Indian by descent, born and brought up in America, but brown by heart. And we become doctors. It's what we do. It's what our families want us to do. And I grew up looking around me, and everyone that was wealthy, everyone that had money, everyone that had nice cars, nice houses, they were doctors. So I just thought, well, I'm going to be a doctor. Studied really hard, worked really hard, got into one of the best programs in the world. I was on a one-way ticket up to becoming a surgeon, a doctor, whatever I wanted. But a week into college, I can't open my eyes. I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? This is horrible. I'm miserable. I don't want to do this. So one thing led to another. I ended up making a really tough decision that, thank God, my parents are so amazing. They supported me. A couple of years later, I left the med school track, went to business school. So I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to be in business. And left behind a full scholarship. Now my parents have to spend all this money. I just literally gave my parents all this debt that they have to do just because their son just wasn't happy with the perfect track, the perfect road. I mean, I was on the perfect thing. And when I got into business school, within 2 weeks of that, I realized I hate that too. And now I'm getting really worried because I thought, oh man, I'm going to be completely, I'm just going to be broke. I'm going to be in my parents' basement. And I realized something. I did a lot of self-reflection, and something I'm very good at. I sat down and said, what's going on? I realized it wasn't about the school. It wasn't about the subject. It was just about the fact that I couldn't resonate with the idea of sitting around in a class, learning theory. I wanted to go out and do. So that was when I decided I'm going to start a business. Now here's the problem. I had $100 to my name. What the heck am I business I'm going to start? So I had a job. I was a financial planner, and so I would make some money, but for some reason, all that money would just go right back out into the job. So here was my schedule. I got up in the morning. I'd go to class, usually from about 7:30 to 1:30 or 2:30. Around that time, I would skip to drive about 45 minutes to the area where my clients used to live. This is almost every day. I would work with my clients till usually about 7 or 8 p.m., drive back to my school, have dinner, maybe hang out with friends for an hour or two in the dorm or in the apartment, and then I'd start working on my business at about 10 at night. And I'd do that until about 1 or 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, go to sleep, get up and do the same thing all over again the next day. There was no fraternity parties. There was no going out and watching football games and basketball games. These are active choices I made. Now, yes, I realize I missed out on that in my college, but I got in return something much different, which I value more. So I struggled a lot. For 18 months, I couldn't make a penny. And then this one moment happened, and this is where I say I've had a couple of angelic moments in my life. I went to this forum that I used to sit in, and I just said, guys, that's it. I'm done. I quit. Like, every man has his limits. I'm going to go off and do the job thing. I'm getting some good job offers. I'm about to graduate. I can't deal with this anymore. And that day I got a message from someone. Till this day, I have no idea who the person was. They had no history on the forum. They said, kid, I don't want to see you quit. I've been watching your hustle the last year. I will sit here and message with you nonstop for the next 24 hours, and I will help you make your first dollar so you don't quit. Now, here's the crazy thing. Back then, we didn't have Facebook. We didn't have Skype. We didn't have any of these things. I've been doing this since before that. And sure enough, this person delivered. They stayed up. I almost said no, by the way. Again, life is a series of choices. I almost said no because I thought there was someone on the forum just trolling me in my pain. But I decided, what do I have to lose? I said yes. And sure enough, private messaging through the forum, they were working with me. And I did it. I went to bed at 3 in the morning, woke up the next day, ran to the computer. And sure enough, this person's formula had worked. I had made $300. It was more money I made in one night of sleeping than I had done in 18 months combined of work. And they stood true to their word. They never responded to me after that. I never found out who they were. And my only promise to them was they had said 2 conditions to working with me. One was they would never reveal who they were. The second condition was I had to do this for other people. And I'm glad to say that I have fulfilled on that second mission. But that's where it started. I blew it up from there, never got a job after college, kept growing, grew the company to 10 million a year. 2008 happens, market collapses. I don't know what I'm doing. By 2009, starts to impact my business. I don't pivot. I don't have mentors. I don't know what I'm doing. Running this big company, young guy. Next thing I know, I start making rogue moves, stupid moves, and I fell $1.7 million in debt. It took a moment of me almost dying on a plane because I got so stressed. I was so sick from this all the time. I was ending up in the hospital every 3 to 4 months with internal bleeding. And I remember I was once on a flight to India and I got diverted and I got stuck in Amsterdam for a night and started having major sickness, major issues, major bleeding. The next day, boarded the flight, was sweating, looked white. I was messed up. But luckily, again, angelic moment number 2, the passenger next to me saw something was wrong. I was blacked out. I didn't even know. Before the plane could take off, they waved the flight attendant down. Plane pulls over to the side. Next thing I know, I'm being woken up. Someone's slapping me and I'm strapped to a stretcher. And I found out I'm being walked down the plane into an ambulance. And later on found out I'd lost almost 60% of my blood's volume. I was about to go into shock. If the plane took off within about an hour, I would have gone into shock and died. Wow. And that was a real wake-up call for me because I realized, what am I doing to myself? Like, go get a job. If entrepreneurship is going to kill you, like you're stressing yourself out. I was in debt. I was ruining other people's lives. And that was a real wake-up call. It was probably the best thing that could have happened to me because that was when I became an entrepreneur. That was when I decided I'm making an active decision here. And I changed how I made decisions. I changed how I ran my business. I changed how I listened to my mentors. I came back. I got rid of 96, went from 96 people to 6 people on my staff, closed down my offices. And you know what? I paid back $1.6 million in debt in 16 months. I was back on top in 16 months by going back to the basics, going to the system, and treating my business as a business and not as an emotion or not as a playground. And so from that was in 2013, 2012, 2013. Since then just took off. And that was when Learn became my passion because I asked myself a simple question. Who am I? What am I? What am I doing? Why am I truly building this? And that was from that my mission for Learn emerged. And since then, stuck to the system, stuck to the basics. They've never failed me. Built the company back up. Now I'm a principal in 7 companies. My wife and I run a nonprofit. That would be the 8th company. And I live the life of my dreams. But man, have I faced challenges, big time challenges. That story I told about ending up in a hotel, the dark, thundering It's totally like it comes right out of a movie as you imagine it. It looked like that. That was when I owed people money. My phone was blowing up. People were calling and asking to be paid. I didn't know what to do. I turned my phone off and I ran away. I ran to a city called Goa. I was in India during that time because I had an office there. I ran away to a city called Goa. Only one person knew where I was. And even he didn't know what hotel I was in. He just knew I was in Goa. For a week, I turned my phone off and I sat in a corner of a hotel and I drank myself almost to death, by the way. And that I really caught myself in time. But this is, I don't say this to scare people from being an entrepreneur, by the way. I made a lot of choices that many people don't have to. I give you the story just to make you realize that it's a journey and it's got its ups and downs. And you just need to be ready to face those.
Absolutely. And I also think it's a marathon, not a sprint, as you say. And so you got to pace yourself. And so I don't know, I'm not so for the whole hustle mantra and work yourself to the bone, because it is a marathon and you've got to be able to pace yourself through. You mentioned, and that's an amazing story, which I have sort of read online, so I was a little bit familiar with it. But as you say, it is the true Hollywood formula story. You should probably make a movie about your story. But anyway, you mentioned sort of towards the end of your story that in order to rebound, you went back to the basics. Do you want to maybe touch on, in your opinion, what those basics are for people and sort of how they can probably apply it to their current business?
Absolutely. Very simple. And I'm going to completely underwhelm you now. So the basics to my business, I've got 7 of them. Actually, again, go back and consider my nonprofit a business, because it's an 8th one I have. Step 1, audience. Build an audience. You need people. 1,000 people, 500 people, 100 people. 100 people can build you a 6-figure business. You need people that are going to know who you are, that are going to trust you, that are going to follow you, and that are going to look up to you. For whatever the topic is. I don't care if it's rose gardening. I don't care if it's home goods, e-com store, or if it doesn't matter. Whatever it is, 100 people at least that look at you and say, you are the authority on this subject. I will listen to what you say and then take action upon it. So you need an audience. Number 2 is you need to communicate with that audience. Consistency and relevancy, because in today's day and age, we have very short attention spans. So if you are not in front of me all the time, I will forget that you exist. So really, first, a mechanism and a medium through which you will build this audience. Number 2, a mechanism and a medium through which you will then communicate with said audience to build that trust and relationship. And then number 3, something to sell to them. That's it. Now, here's the crazy part. The thing that you sell to them doesn't have to be your thing. If you love a program that is not yours, but that you highly endorse, that's good enough. That's called affiliate marketing. So you could sell someone else's thing. It could be coaching. It could be consulting. It could be physical products. You may have an e-com store. I mean, look at this. At a very high level, look at Apple. Apple has a devout audience, loves and trusts them. Apple does stay in communication. They've got stores all over the place. They send emails. They've got product releases happening all the time. So they stay in touch with their audience. And then number 3, they got lots of amazing products. I can't tell you how many Apple products I've bought. I don't know why I bought them. I never really used them, never really touched them, but they're an Apple product. I had to have it. So you can go as high level as an Apple company. It's, one of the most, I think it's one of the most valuable companies in the world, top 5 at least, or you can come down to the roots of building a small affiliate business or an e-com store. Doesn't matter. The 3 fundamental basics are audience, communicate, monetize.
Yep, absolutely. And each of those elements are critical in their own right. I know that you are a big fan of copywriting, and because that is obviously the mechanism by which you communicate with people and move people to take action. Do you and you've also launched what's called your Copywriting Academy. Do you want to maybe touch on, I guess, the core elements that you see being important with copywriting? But importantly, I'm interested in how you launched that Copywriting Academy, because you did a bit of a different model to some people. And do you want to maybe touch on that a little bit?
I'd love to. Yeah, it's a loaded question. So I'll go back. Anytime you talk about copywriting, you're going to get me perked up, sitting at the edge of my seat and ready to go. So
Awesome.
if there's 2 things I geek out on, it's data for ads, or data in general in business, and copywriting. Which is crazy because I'm a D- English student. I told you I had a full scholarship when I went into the pre-med program, and that was not because I'm smart. I'm not the smartest kid ever in any room. any room I've ever been in, I'm not the smartest person. But I will tell you this, it's very rare that you'll put me in a room where someone in that room will outwork me. And so that's where my grades came from. But my first D- I ever got in high school, I was a straight A student. My first D- was in my writing class. I don't like writing. I hate it, actually. It's boring. And well, I should say I hated it. I love it now in the sense of I get the purpose of it. But when I started my business, so when I was struggling, I had this run in. So I created this product. I put everything out there. I worked really hard on it, and it was failing. And so this was during my 18 months of failing. And right towards when I finally did have success, it's funny because I had this phantom person who came to me whose name I till this day don't know. But then I also had this other individual who was introduced to me, whose name was Justin Ford. And really, older guy, at least for me at that time. I mean, he would have been in his 40s and I was in college. But such a nice guy and so full of wisdom. And he'd always say these little catchy lines and he would just catch my attention. And one day he read something I had written and he said, "Hey kid, who wrote this?" And I was like, oh my God, here we go. Because my English teacher was hard on me. I was like, all this damage around the writing topic. And I admitted, I said, "It's me. I'm sorry. It probably sucks, but I'll do better." And he said, "No, I think you've got potential. I want you to be my intern. I want to teach you copywriting." And oh my God, I laughed. I thought, you lost your mind, old man. Are you crazy? I would rather pluck out my left eye than do anything in the world of writing. But he wouldn't give up on me. He just stayed on me. And then one day he offered me a free trip to Delray Beach, Florida for an event for copywriters. Now I'm a broke college kid. He's offering to pay for my hotel and flights to go to Delray Beach, Florida. So that alone was worth it. But I wanted to honor his gift to me. And so I said I would take the conference seriously and open my mind. So I'm sitting at this conference and they come forward and they announce the keynote speaker. I didn't even know he was a keynote. They say, "Ladies and gentlemen, help us welcome to the stage our keynote speaker, Michael Masterson, also known as Mark Ford." And my jaw fell to the ground for two reasons. One, I don't like copywriting, but I was in the marketing world long enough at that point to know who Michael Masterson was.
Yeah,
arguably one of the best copywriters to have ever lived. And I was in awe. But the part that got my attention was his name. I didn't realize his name was Mark Ford. The crazy thing is the person who eventually went on to become my mentor, his name was Justin Ford. So as soon as lunch came, I went running to to see where Justin was. I said, "Justin, he's got the same last name as you." And he says, "That's my big brother."
wow.
And I was like, "Oh my God, what have I been doing?" I said, "Justin," I bowed before. I said, "Sir, please forgive me. I will do whatever you say. Take me under your wing." And he started teaching me how to write. And he said this one quote to me, which changed my life. And he said, "Every successful business person must be able to sell through the art of the written word." When he first said it, I was like, what the heck does that mean? I don't think I understood the true emphasis of that statement until I had done over 100 million in sales online. I mean, I've done 250 million in sales to date. It took me until the first 100 million that I thought back to what he had said and said, there is no truer statement in the world of entrepreneurship. And that is, every successful business person must be able to sell through the art of the written word. And so for me, copywriting, at that event, copywriting found purpose. And it was because I couldn't see the purpose of it that I never took it seriously. And that is, copywriting is a physical representation of your message when you're not around. And that may not be an epiphanic moment for you right now, but if you let it sink, it will be. My new book that I wrote that I give away to everybody for free, because for me, teaching copywriting and talking about copywriting has become like a mission. It's not even about the money I make from it. I just feel like the world needs to hear it. This is how I can help save the world. No one should ever read bad copy ever again. It's like, that's my Superman moment. So I give this book away for free, and I call the book The Silent Salesman, because that's what copywriting is. That's what writing is. It's a physical representation of you, your thoughts, your opinions, your ideas when you're not around. And that changed how I looked at it. So, it started my journey with that. And so we actually launched Conversion Academy recently, not Copywriting Academy. I had a Copywriting Academy. I merged it into Conversion Academy. And it's become a mission for me. So in addition to the revenue, and that's all good and great, and we have amazing programs, I just decided this is going to be a message. So my whole mission for this has been to take the message of good copy to 100,000 entrepreneurs. And we actually already have 22,000 in our Facebook group right now. So I'm like, wow, I'm already almost a quarter way there. And we haven't even started our evergreen funnels yet. So that's going to start soon. But really, I can tell you I've simplified conversion and copywriting more than anyone else I've ever learned from. And I love all the gurus and I love all the people that teach this. But the thing is, the internet has completely changed it. And unfortunately, a lot of the training around copywriting has not evolved, but the minds have. We have. As a matter of fact, Microsoft did a study in 2015 that proved that the average attention span of a human being is now 8 seconds. That is less than that of a goldfish, which has 9 seconds. And if we are fundamentally thinking different and acting different, how can the messaging and marketing not change? It has. So I actually say that direct marketing is dying. I'm known as my controversial statement in the industry is that the interactive marketing is born, to the degree that I actually bought that domain name, spent a ton of money. I was like, that's what I want. I tell my wife all the time as a joke. I said on my tombstone, I want it to say great husband, great father, and founder of interactive marketing, because that's how it is today. You have to write copy differently. You have to engage and interact with your audience. You have to break things down into micro commitments and, the whole funnel ideology, which never existed 20 years ago. And so I've broken copywriting down into just 5 simple steps. And really all it is in the end of the day is it's just a big story. And I've changed the way people look at copy. Everyone will say copywriting's purpose is to sell. And it actually isn't. Copywriting's purpose is to get and retain attention. That's it. So the truth is, the longer I retain your attention, the more likely I'm going to sell you. It's as simple as that. And so I created a simple formula where I don't talk about fancy words. I don't talk about trigger words and power words and blah, blah, blah. That's all not necessary. I talk about psychology, talk about consumer behavior, and I talk about how to keep someone's attention, and I walk them through a journey that eventually leads to them choosing to purchase from you. So as long as you're hitting the core purpose of each of the 5 steps, you're going to be fine. Doesn't matter what words you use. We talk a lot about narrative, consumer psychology. It's just so much deeper. And once you know these things, you can't help but become a better communicator. So it's really a different approach to copywriting completely, which has helped me a ton because we are pumping out students that are becoming really successful copywriters left, right, and center, and in a timely fashion that never seen before. So I do a 21-day challenge, which is now getting into, you said, how did I launch Conversion Academy? 21-day challenge. My commitment to people is I'll turn you into a better copywriter than 80% of the world in 21 days. That's a big statement. And I've been delivering on it left and right because of my approach, the way we do it. But I want to take a pause real quick. I mean, are you ready for me to talk about how I launched Conversion Academy? Because that'll completely pivot away from the conversion and copywriting topic. But
I would love to hear about how you launched Conversion Academy, but I know that our listeners are probably thinking, what are these 5 steps?
Yes.
that you mentioned?
Yes. So the 5 steps, I'll try to go through them as quickly as possible. Again, the steps in and of themselves, it's going to underwhelm you. The names are not that attractive, but you got to remember, I'm a purpose-driven person. So the true gold of the knowledge is in the purpose of the step. So step 1 is introduction. Step 2 is story. Step 3 is content. Step 4 is transition. Step 5 is pitch. Now, again, everyone's like, oh, great, Anik. What an evolution. No, hold on one second so let's talk purpose of each one. Step 1, introduction. What is the purpose of the introduction? A lot of times you hear people start their pitches with, hi, my name is Anik Singhal, and I am blah, 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 blah. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. You got to remember one thing. When you're writing copy, when you're selling something, nobody cares about you. I hate to say it. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be mean, but nobody cares. So the purpose of introduction is what's in it for them. So I'm starting a presentation. I'm going to start with, today I'm going to share with you the 5-step system I've used to sell over $250 million. I can promise every single one of you could double the conversions of your products and sales after this presentation. Hi, my name is Anik Singhal. So you start with what's in it for them. You got to get their attention. Remember, Microsoft study, 8 seconds. They will leave. They don't care. Their phones are dinging. They got all kinds of messages flying their way. So now we move to story. What's the purpose of story? Most people would think the purpose of story is to build your credibility. This is why people will go and brag during their stories. I'm this, I'm that, I've done this, I've done that. Well, again, I'm sorry to say you'd be wrong because that is actually not the purpose of story. The purpose of story is actually to build relatability. So if I come on to teach you copywriting and I'm like, hi, yes, I'm a 3-time Pulitzer Prize winning poet, PhD, master's in English and writing from Harvard. I've written 7 New York Times bestseller books. And hey, I'm here to tell you how easy writing is. The person's like, what? I'm none of those things. It makes no sense. So versus when I tell my story of copywriting, I always like to say, guys, I'm a D- English student, borderline hate writing, yet it's made me $250 million. So the purpose of story is relatability. It's to make sure the other person feels connected to you and feels that if you can do it, they can do it. So I always talk about Batman versus Robin. This is the visual I leave people with the story. Don't be Batman. Unless you are a coach or consultant, unless you are the product, don't ever be Batman. Because if I came to you today and said, hey, what do you do at 3 a.m. every day? You're like, well, I'm sleeping. I said, that's so selfish of you. Why don't you go out and save the world? Batman does. You'd say, I'm not Batman. I don't have $1 billion tool chest. I don't have a guy making me all these amazing gadgets. I'm not in the best shape of my life. But if I told you, could you please meet Batman at the corner of K and 5th? He needs a ride down the street to the crime scene. You'd say, sure, I'll give him a ride. That's Robin. Be Robin. Be the one that brings Batman to people, but don't be Batman because no one relates with Batman. So story is, the purpose is relatability. Step 3 is content. I'm going to give you guys a very simple rule to follow in your sales presentations that will immediately double, triple your conversions. Content's purpose is credibility. Now most people go, what? I thought, what? Story? What? Where? No. People no longer need you to tell them how amazing they are. They will determine it for themselves. Consumers have taken full control in today's day and age of marketing. You want credibility with me? Tell me something I didn't know. Help me have an aha moment. That is where you get the sale. The pitch is never where you get the sale. Most people got this wrong. It is in the content that you get the sale. So what I always leave people with is make sure your content portion of your pitch has at least 3 to 5 aha moments. Now, what do I mean by that? Because you don't want to start teaching people. Never give the how, give the what only. But the big challenge in front of you is going to be, how do you help someone have an aha moment with a what? So an aha moment, the easiest way to have one is to say something that's controversial. Say something that's the opposite of what they're used to hearing, and prove it with a stat. Prove it with a study. So for example, when Atkins diet first came out, here's this crazy guy saying you can eat as much beef and meat and bacon as you want to lose weight. But he proved it with some statistical study and turned the whole idea of carb versus fat. And so that's a major aha. So you instantly get credibility because that person thinks, man, I did not know that. Now I do. This person obviously knows more than I must be in their presence. So 3 to 5 aha moments, things that make people go, wow, that's cool. I didn't know that. I didn't think of it that way. That's where you get the sale. Then you move into transition. So what's the purpose of transition? Well, if you've done 1, 2, and 3 very well, you've kind of gotten friendly. The person likes you. They're starting to feel related to you. They feel like they can connect with you. And now suddenly you're going to ask them for money? Why? Why would you ask me for money? This is the most sacred topic. And so it's very simple. The purpose of transition is answer the why. Address the elephant in the room. Why do you want my money? And sometimes it's as simple as, listen, man, it costs money to make this TV. I need your money to help pay that, and I need a margin. And the person thinks that's reasonable. I get it. Okay, fine. But the other big purpose of transition, or the way to think about transition, is people always say, sell the subconscious, sell the subconscious, sell the subconscious. You're right, actually. The subconscious is first, but the subconscious doesn't buy. The subconscious only wants to buy. It is actually the conscious that buys. And the pitch is the part where we talk to the conscious mind. But the transition is where you have to transition from the subconscious to the conscious. So your transition has to be a very logical transference. So in my case, when I do a transition, I say, listen, ladies and gentlemen, we have a team of over 50 people. I have a 26,000 square foot physical center here. We run a support time where we respond to our students within 3 hours or less, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and 365 days a week, so a year. So you can imagine this costs a lot of money for us to run. We don't want to sacrifice on our service ever. So this is the price that we charge, because this helps us make sure that we run a sustainable business. And all of a sudden you deflate people's price objections. Say, it's perfectly fair. It makes sense. You would think it's obvious, right? But just even stating it can just completely deflate the transition into a pitch. Yeah. And then step number 5 is your pitch. Now, again, I ask, what's the purpose of a pitch? Most people would say, well, the purpose of a pitch is to get the sale. You're wrong. Most people who are watching a webinar or VSL, they know there's a pitch coming. They're fully aware of that. So if they're still there and you've started pitching, they're already sold. They would have left otherwise. The only question left on their mind now is how much. That's why they're watching. So they're already sold. No one asks how much unless they're sold. So the purpose of a pitch is to confirm the sale, not to get the sale, to confirm. That's why you see people say, but wait, there's more. Bonus 1, bonus 2, bonus, because you're stacking. And the rule to follow that I follow and teach my students is 10x. whatever you're going to charge, make sure the conscious mind, the logical mind feels it's getting at least 10 times that back. So, prime example here being, I'm going to sell something for $997. Well, I'm going to stack my offer to make sure the logical conscious mind says, wow, I'm getting $10,000 in return. I would be stupid not to buy this. And that's the purpose of a pitch, is to confirm the sale. And that's why you see value stacking. So that's the 5 steps. And that pretty much shapes every single piece of copy I ever write, whether it's an email, a video sales letter, a webinar, a written sales letter, or even a face-to-face communication. I mean, this is, you know what? I might be at a party. It has nothing to do with business. And I promise you, I'm a shy guy. No one knows this about me. I'm a true introvert, okay? I don't like being around people much. But I can walk into a room and within 10 minutes have the entire room wrapped around me, watching me, talking to me, because I follow this 5-step communication framework, even in a scenario that has nothing to do with business.
Yeah, fascinating. I've furiously written down a whole bunch of notes, so I've definitely learned some things. Thank you so much. And as you know, you write a good message, you need to get the right person in front of that message. And this is kind of where traffic definitely comes into play. Obviously, with the wrong message and the right traffic, it also fails. But do you want to maybe talk about how you have built Conversion Academy to get the right person in front of this perfectly constructed message, and how you've done that?
Yeah, I'd love to. So, this is me really reaching into my toolbox, giving up some of my best stuff, because I believe what I've created with Conversion Academy is soon going to be copied by a lot. And that's cool. I've been in this industry for 17 years, and I take great pride in having been the pioneer of a lot of funnel styles that have gotten copied, and it's fun and I love it, and forces me to keep innovating. So when I was launching Conversion Academy, I had a few goals. One was I didn't want another 997, 1997, 2997 program. I could launch one, and my education in this field is worth far more, no doubt. But because this was message driven for me and I wanted to reach the masses, having a high ticket wasn't going to help me do that. So I needed to come in and do something that was very inexpensive, $100 or something like that. But now the problem with that is it's not financially viable to do evergreen ads and media buying, and it should be worth my time financially as well. And I should have room to buy ads. That's the only way I'll scale my message to reach 100,000 people. So great. What do we do then? Well, we have upsells, but that's great, but there needs to still be profit. I run a business, not a nonprofit. At least Learn isn't. And so I thought, okay, let's do continuity. We'll make sure that there is a $200 a month continuity, and that is good anyways, because you're not going to learn copy unless you have continuous touch points with me and you give me an opportunity. It's a repetition thing. It's going to take months for us together for someone to learn copy well. But man, continuity is difficult. It's not easy, and there's always high attrition, and people are scared. I've always said this: it's easier to sell $1,000 program than it is to sell $100 a month program. It's far easier to sell $1,000 program. What's that?
I would totally agree with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So, but that's not what I wanted here, because I wanted to build a community. I wanted to build people that stick, that stay, and that people I could track their results and I could help them and guide them. So, all right, no, I'm going to build continuity. Even though I haven't done this in so many years, I'm going to fight I'm going to fight all of this stuff. So I started studying all the different models out there, and I concocted my own little model. First thing, I knew some things about my audience. My audience loves webinars. They are trained for it over years and years. They show up to them. They enjoy them. They buy from them. So I was like, I want to do a webinar because that's what my list is used to. And I'm not going evergreen yet, right? So I wasn't even worried about how I would launch it to evergreen. I'm going to first test it on my own audience. So, okay, I'm going to do a webinar. But then I'm like, a $97 offer for a webinar? That's silly. So then I started seeing this major impact that I'm seeing from people doing challenge funnels. There's a lot of conversation out there about challenge funnels. Now, I wasn't really as interested in the data of the challenge funnels as far as the monetary data as I was the more intangible that I was hearing from people, which was the action the students are taking. I was really intrigued by that. So I thought, what if, this just came together to me. I said, what if, so typically challenge funnels, they work like this. You buy a challenge for whatever, $20, $30, $100, depends on the challenge, $50. And it goes for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And then at the end of that, usually you have this culminating webinar where everyone shows up, and then you sell your $2,000, $3,000 offer. So I thought, man, that sounds like a lot of work. Doesn't sound very scalable. You have to like run the challenge. Everyone has to be on the same page at the same time. You run it every month. It's just a lot of administrative work. Why can't I just why can't the challenge just start the day you join and you just go through it in 21, I wanted to do a 21-day challenge. And then I thought, God, you're losing so many people if you're waiting until the end of 21 days and then trying to get everybody on a webinar and selling your $2,000-$3,000 program to make this whole campaign viable financially. And I just thought to myself, I was like, what if we make the challenge $97 and just auto bill people into a $197 a month? And now you've given me 21 days to blow you away with amazing data. With amazing content to convince you to rebill into $197 a month, to not just rebill, but to be happy about it, to be like, I'm excited. So everyone's like, oh, it doesn't work like that. I thought, you know what, the heck with everyone. I'm going to give it a shot.
Yeah.
So we put it together, and I knew the key behind the success of this campaign was going to be to get my students to take the 21-day challenge and to get results from the 21-day challenge. So I had to put my best content out. I had to really deliver on my promise of, I'll turn you into a better copywriter than 80% of the world in 21 days. So I put my heart and soul into this. I love this stuff so much. I don't need PowerPoints. I don't need slides. It oozes out of me. So I really put together an amazing program. And in that, I'm constantly edifying the continuity. I'm constantly telling them, I'm even challenging them, because our platform is custom built. So you can actually upgrade your membership earlier. You don't have to wait till the end of the 21 days. So throughout the 21 days, I'm like, hit that button. Let's stop dancing around. Let's stop playing around. I want you to commit to being with me for at least a year. And so I got all those concepts of psychology, those pieces happening. And so we put it out there. And the next big piece of my marketing was, I know how to get webinar rooms filled. And so I wrote my book, because I know the value of a book. Every book I've ever written has turned into a multi-7-figure book for me, every book. Yet I couldn't care less what Amazon's paying me, and not one of them is published by a publisher, because I refuse to give my book to a publisher. I use them as lead generation. So the promise I gave to my list was this. Look, I wrote a book called The Silent Salesman. It's about how I've sold $250 million using this 5-step formula. Awesome book. You get the book. I wrote it, by the way, in 5 days. It was audio. I created the audiobook, gave it to a couple of writers. They spun it out. The book was full head to toe done in 2 weeks. But my part was about 10 hours of time in over 5 days, because, God forbid if I worked 10 hours in a day. So it was 2 hours each day for 5 days. And I basically dangled the book in front of my audience and said, show up for the webinar and you get the book at the very end of the webinar. And now I got just 3,000 people packed into a webinar that want to learn about copywriting. And at the end of it, I positioned this offer in front of them. And then we ran an encore and we did the whole webinar funnel like I like to do. And we ended up putting almost 1,200 people into the challenge.
Wow.
And what's amazing is that 50% of them, this is after refunds, after cancellations, over 50% of them have consciously, voluntarily stayed in at the $197 a month. So in one swoop, I built a 6-figure a month continuity business, doing what I love teaching. They love it. We are actually hitting our second month of rebills already, seeing amazing retention. And on top of that, I've been able to bring 3 of them into as interns and to learn. Now they're helping write copy for my company. I mean, it's been amazing. But the thing I'm most excited about is the data that has come out of it. The financials are so lucrative that I can absolutely suck at the ads and we're going to do well. And that was what I was hoping for. So now I'm recrafting the funnel, because the funnel I built was definitely targeted to my list. It's not going to work evergreen, I don't think. And so I'm building a new funnel right now, which I'm really excited about. Should be up in a few weeks, and then we'll start the ads. And my goal and dream and hope is over the next year and a half to make Conversion Academy the de facto place that people go to learn about funnels, copywriting, and conversion.
Wow, that's absolutely fascinating. And I'm kind of not surprised that the initial offer of the challenge worked well. I personally run a challenge. I ran a 7-day challenge, retargeting challenge, teaching people how to create a retargeting campaign on both Facebook and Google. And it was incredibly powerful for people, because I knew that if I can get people to create retargeting campaigns, it's going to work, because retargeting works for most businesses, not all, but most. And then they're going to want more traffic. So it was a great way to get people to commit for 7 days. It's a short amount of time. It's digestible, which is the same as your 21-day challenge. And it gets people to actually sit down and go, yes, I can do this, as opposed to the promise of like your promise, you know, I'm going to be better than 80% of other copywriters. That's quite daunting for people. But hey, 21 days, I can give you 21 days, and it makes it easy for people to commit. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of not surprised that worked incredibly well. But I think the real genius that you applied to it was just automatically adding that continuity onto the back of it. I'm assuming, you know, people were well aware that was going to happen, and therefore you can continue to help them. So you mentioned you're converting that into something evergreen. I'm curious as the way how you're going to get that message out to people. You know, do Facebook ads, YouTube ads? What's your funnel, do you think, going to look like for that?
So, yeah, my funnel for this is going to be I've at least in theory, created a very different style of funnel. And so I haven't tested it yet, but I'll put it out there. So first and foremost, I'll tell you one thing on ads: the impact of holding a book in your hand and saying, get this book for free. It's so powerful. People love it. And so I'm going to continue to lean on my silent seller book, and they'll get it for free by coming and opting in. But as soon as they opt in, I'm going to put them through a series of very short pages where they answer questions. So it's going to start a self-qualification process. So as soon as you opt in, the next page is going to say, hey, the book is on its way. It's in your email. But wait, I have a question. Would you be interested in turning into a better copywriter than 80% of the world in 21 days or less? There's a yes or no. If they say no, then it's just going to take them to a thank you page, which has a video of me giving them the book, but then also challenging their no, saying, you might want to reconsider. You know, check this out. I got a 21-day challenge. I really think you should be a part of it. And if they click forward, they'll go to my sales page. But assuming they click yes, they're going to see another little short question box that's just going to say, okay, that's fine, but are you willing to commit at least 30 minutes a day? And so then again, they say yes, and they say, okay, great. Now also, it's a requirement that if you do this, you have to be an active participant in the community. We have over 1,100 people, or we have at this point 600 people in the community. Would you be willing to actively participate, help while you get helped? Right? And so they say yes. So if you see what I'm doing there, I am making them self-qualify, and I'm getting some core messaging out in front of them. Probably there's another one or two questions. And this is something I have done very successfully in the past. So you can see how when I'm building funnels nowadays, I'm like reaching into things I did 8, 9, 10 years ago and things that I'm seeing done today well, and merging them into one beautiful symphony, hopefully. And so there will be 4 or 5 of these, and then eventually they land on a page that makes them the offer for $97. And of course, there will be an autoresponder sequence that we're going to work on for 21 days that will also tailor to based on what they're saying. It'll change. And now I can't go 21 days just saying, hey, you know, read the sales page. Hey, read the sales page. Hey, read the sales page. So there's going to be content spread throughout those 21 days and getting them to different videos to watch, where then I have another opportunity to, you know, re-challenge some of their objections potentially. So we have some assets that we'll be using in the funnel. We have our book. We have our challenge, the sales page. I also have this amazing Facebook group that constantly, without me even asking, students are in there just raving about the challenge and posting their results and posting what they're getting. So it's awesome because it just helps solidify from a third party perspective what the value is. So I have the ability throughout my series of emails to invite them into the free Facebook group. I have a YouTube channel where I post a lot of copywriting videos. I'll invite them over there. And then I also have that webinar that I had done that now can be evergreen. So the webinar converted really well, although I don't want to use it as I don't want to use it as like the anchor for the promotion, but there's no reason why someone's not offered an opportunity to watch that on an on-demand situation. So I got all these different assets that what lays in front of me is I got to get these assets in front of these people within the first 21 to 30 days. And really what I'm finding is the way I've run the math, as you and I were joking before, I'm a big data person. If I can convince 3% of the people who opt in for my book to buy the $97 challenge, I am in profit.
Wow. That's amazing.
And if I can't convince 3% of people who opted in for a book about copywriting to buy my challenge, then something's wrong with me.
Totally. I'm just curious though, in your main ad though, you're going to obviously lead with the book to give it away for free. I'm just curious, in your ad, are you going to mention your Conversion Academy, or is it something that you just don't even go there with?
No, I won't mention it. I'll just talk about the book. I'll anchor the book. This is what I want to give this book to them for free. And that I might anchor that I have a community that, hey, if you get this book, you're invited into a community, and that we do a lot of copywriting training and teaching, which I do. I have a Facebook group, I have my challenge, I have tons of things on YouTube. So I'm fulfilling that. But no, there's no really reason to muddy the waters, because if I start talking about other stuff, I'm just going to decrease my click-through rates and increase my cost per clicks. Yeah. I will build my funnel in such a way that it warms the person up. I'm a big believer that every piece of a funnel, and an ad is a piece of a funnel, should have one purpose and one purpose only. And trying to do something that's too far down the line, you're just going to ruin your results. So for example, the purpose of an ad is to get a click. Let's just get the click. I mean, obviously I want to edify. So the book, the click, the purpose of the opt-in page is to get the opt-in. Maybe a little bit of edification of what happens afterwards, but let's not try to mix 6 messages into one thing. It's just going to drop conversions, create confusion. So now once they get the book, once they opt in for the free book, now the purpose of the next page is to qualify them to read my sales page. So it'll continue to go down that track. But no, I think the ad will literally just be about the book.
Yeah, awesome. I'm mindful of the time. We're sort of getting to the top of the hour, but there's one sort of last question that I wanted to ask you. You deal a lot with, obviously, with entrepreneurs and people on their entrepreneurial journey. As somebody who, let's pretend you were starting now, what's the one thing that you would do now, I guess, and another way of asking this, what's sort of been your biggest mistake along the journey that you've had?
Whew, man, that's a loaded question, because I wish there was one biggest one. I've done so many mistakes.
Haven't we all?
So I leaned back to when I fell $1.7 million in debt. And there was something I learned back then, and I've had to remind myself of at least a couple more times since then. But man, stick to the basics, stick to the simple system. And I think as entrepreneurs, we've got this massive shiny object syndrome, and we got to get away from it. So sometimes when things are working too well and they're simple and they get boring, we want to complicate things just for the sake of adding excitement in our life, and don't do it, because sometimes you don't want that excitement. So I'm really like, even today, I'm building this company, Learn. I'm going to build hopefully what is a multi, 9-figure company. Build an audience, talk to your audience, and sell to them. Simple. Right? Don't get any more complicated than that. Know who you are, know your system. I've got friends that are doing 20, 30 million a year with e-com, tons of them. And I know I could do that, but I don't let it distract me. I know who I am. I know what my business is. I know what I'm good at. I know what my strength is. I'm going to stay to that. That's one thing I would definitely say. That the other thing I would say is that I didn't become as data driven until maybe the last 4 or 5 years. At this point, my team knows, I don't care what it is. You want to do a team trip to the Caribbean and you want to pitch it to me, come to me with data. If you don't got data, it's not going to work. Marketing is not creative. I don't believe marketing is a creative position. Marketing is a data-driven position. Every decision I make today in my business, from a person I'm hiring to an ad I'm running to a funnel I'm building, it's data. If the data points it, so I'm not a risk taker at this point. If I want to take risks, I'm going to go to the casinos. Because actually, most entrepreneurs might have a 5 or 10% chance of succeeding. You're better off playing craps in Vegas. So if I'm going to do this, I want to make sure the odds are 70, 80, 90% in my favor before I do anything. So, that's just a very data-driven person. So I would tell people also, please stop being emotional and stop thinking business is about creativity. It just isn't. It's about data.
Yeah, nice. Well, you're preaching to the converted there. Before we wrap up, where can people find out more information about you and the different places that they can find you online?
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, listen, everyone, I'd love to invite you to listen to my podcast. It's a heart of mine. I love doing it. We interview amazing people. It's very tactical. So my podcast, you always walk away with really tactical strategies, marketing, business, new businesses, how to build, how to get traffic, how to get conversions. Go to iTunes or go to YouTube, type in The Fighting Entrepreneur. So The Fighting Entrepreneur. You can also find it at Anik Podcast, ANIK podcast.com. Would love to have you. We publish 2 episodes a week, and just, everyone loves it. And we've been really blessed with that. And then of course, join us at Learn, LURN.com. Please sign up for an absolutely free membership. And we've got we got 380,000 people in our community at Learn, and lots of amazing courses that are free and all of that. And if you want the book that I mentioned earlier, and want to join my Facebook group for just learning more about copywriting, you can go to silentseller.com/FB for Facebook. So silentseller.com teachtraffic.com/FB. It'll ask you to join the Facebook group. When you do, one of the videos in the announcements will tell you how to get the book for free.
That is awesome. Anik, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I know we're all busy people, even though we are in lockdown. We're all getting to work even in lockdown. So thank you so much for taking time out of your day and coming and sharing your journey and your copywriting secrets and all that. So thank you so much.
Awesome. You're most welcome. Thank you for having me. And as I always say to everybody when I finish a talk, I just say, when life pushes you, stand straight, smile, and push it the heck back. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Thanks so much for listening to the Teach Traffic podcast. For more information on each of these episodes and handy PDFs that you can download, head on over to teachtraffic.com.